And over the next 2-3 days, the pain kept getting more and more intense.
In the back?
Yeah, in the back. To the point where I couldn't breathe from the pain. I was lying on the floor just trying to find a comfortable spot.
Now, are you thinking this is just still low back pain?
I was starting to suspect that it's probably not just a pain
but
in the back.
You could breathe though, right?
I could breathe, but it was painful to breathe.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. Today, my guest is Ilya Khazov.
Yep.
Right? And where I'm going to start here is 2020, the world's locked down. You end up in a strongman competition with Big Z.
Yep.
And in the breakfast, there's pancakes and bacon.
And eggs.
A lot
of eggs.
So tell me about that.
Oh, that was...
I need the whole story because what I got was abbreviated from Clint, and I know there's more to this.
It was very impressive to see that how every single top strongman does it a little bit differently, especially Big Z.
Why was it that you guys didn't have to be separated from everybody else? Because he had something in there where... Was it because the countries that you were coming from?
So, yes, the countries specifically that we're coming from, they had either quarantine restrictions or vaccination restrictions. So as long as you were vaccinated, you were allowed to travel and compete. Especially, we had special permissions due to the sports event. We had a special permission to enter the country as long as we demonstrated this permission.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all backed by the government level there. It was an amazing opportunity to be able to go out there and compete with Big Z and a lot of other top athletes.
So you didn't have to quarantine when you got there?
No, not specifically because they kept us away from everyone else, basically.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you wake up and go down to breakfast.
Yeah. I got to sit down on the table with Big Z. And seeing every other athlete stack up on bacon and pancakes and whatnot, the usual breakfast morning of a competition. Seeing him put a full plate of eggs, just eggs, more than a dozen eggs, and then start opening up packet after packet of salt and spreading it all over it. It was impressive to see how different he does it and yet still follows certain things such as a lot of electrolytes, but he does it the old school way. It's not like he'll open up packs of electrolyte drinks or whatnot. It's just salt all over his eggs.
Now you were doing the same thing without...
I had to follow it.
Okay. And so the story that I got was you had to one up it, whatever he ate, you had to eat more.
I've always been the bigger guy. Other than this competition, almost every competition, I'll be the guy that comes up to the buffet and walks away with a full platter of fruit salad or whatever other breakfast item.
Mm-hmm.
So
if that was 2020, then you started your strongman career just shortly prior to that, right?
A little before that. I started training for it 8 years ago, roughly. That was my first proper professional competition.
That 2021.
Yeah. So
the reason why you started training for it was after a clot in your lung?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
8 years ago.
So how big were you at that point? Because your history is like martial arts. We'll get into some of the stuff like paintball and all this other kind of stuff, right? But you're like 9'7". So and so I'm sure you didn't grow taller in the past decade, right?
No.
So before the strongman, how much did you weigh?
Must have weighed about 120 kilos. That's like 240, 250, 260, somewhere in that range. It was a very athletic weight for me. I wouldn't say I was shredded, but close enough to where I had a lot of muscle on me, but I was in a lean state.
And how were you training?
It was a lot more of a CrossFit style circuit or a HIIT circuit. I was just getting to the gym then after a period of not being in it. I spent 2-3 years just doing all sorts of HIIT style training, just working on getting stronger, getting back to the gym. Strongman was not even in my mind at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember one day specifically, I woke up after a heavy training session and I had a lot of pain in my back. And I thought I just had a nerve spasm, a spine twitch, a muscle, anything. Like, it did not even occur to me that it could have been an embolism. So I tried to go to the gym the same day. I'm trying to work out. Nothing's going my way. I end up cutting it short, going back home.
Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that specializes in hormone optimization and preventative medicine, ensuring a better quality of life. Merrick Health offers a table talk panel tailored for our listeners, featuring comprehensive tests like total and free testosterone, sensitive estradiol, and advanced markers like lipoprotein A and IGF-1. Choose between self-service options where you can select lab panels based upon decades of experience, or opt for guided optimization with your own health coach. Visit merrickhealth.com/tabletalk and use the code tabletalk to get 10% off your first order. This is kind of like an unboxing. I just got the Element sparkling water. Haven't tried it, haven't opened it. So let's check it out. All the different flavors here. And I will go with the grapefruit, which is my favorite flavor of the pack. Here's the test. And it's good. I like it. It's like sparkling water with Element. So it's good. The Sleep Me Chili Bed cooling system lets you customize your sleeping environment to your own optimal temperature, ensuring you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Visit www.sleep.me/tabletalk to get your chili pad and save up to $315 with the code tabletalk. Hey guys, real quick, we realized that something ridiculous, like 80% of the people that watch the podcast don't subscribe. So subscribe to the channel and make sure to check out the description for more details on the guest, links to their pages, and give us a few days, but the show notes will be there. Or not the show notes, the timestamps. Hey, we're just rolling with this thing right now.
I'm Dan Paschalk. I'm the owner of Madtown Fitness in Madison, Wisconsin. As I progressed in powerlifting, I decided to open a gym. Did it right after I graduated college. Kind of was always searching around for good equipment. I was kind of stuck to the used market just because I couldn't afford new stuff, but I was always trying to pick up elite stuff. The last few years, as the gym's grown, I've finally gotten to that point where I could make that person that I called was Matt here at elitefts. We replace all of our free weights with elite stuff. We've got the combo racks, amazing stainless steel uprights, all these really awesome custom features. Not only does the elite stuff look awesome, but it really increased the durability of the equipment that we have in the gym, and just kind of like the functionality and the ease of use. It's stuff that can really hold up to heavy use. It's designed for powerlifters and for heavy lifting, but at the same time, it's stuff that the general fitness type of population can also use. It's really been a game changer for us. It's just been an awesome kind of renovation of our whole space, and it's like a whole new gym. So for the gym owners out there looking to make an awesome change within your facility, make sure you go to elitefts.com, pull up kind of the sales tab. You can send an email through there and ask for Matt. Otherwise, you can even call their customer service line and make sure they connect you to him. Matt will make sure that you get completely taken care of.
And over the next 2-3 days, the pain kept getting more and more intense.
In the back?
Yeah, in the back. To the point where I couldn't breathe from the pain. I was lying on the floor, just trying to find a comfortable spot.
Now, are you thinking this is just still low back pain?
I was starting to suspect that it's probably not just a pain
but
in the back.
You could breathe though, right?
I could breathe, but it was painful to breathe.
Okay.
Yeah. So finally, on the third day, I figured there must be something completely wrong. I had a lot of the symptoms that I didn't realize then were symptoms of the embolism.
Such as?
An impending sense of doom, as WebMD would put it. That weird, stinking feeling at the back of your head that you're wondering, there's something really off right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kept creeping up over those 3 days. I was like, yeah, I should get to the hospital. So I got my way there. I was out of breath walking into it. So in hindsight, I should have probably been there on the first day, but that's not something you ever expect, especially being for my size. I was a lean, athletic person that trained, exercised 3, 4, 5 times a week, ate healthy. I was on a really good diet then. I took good care of myself. So to have that happen out of the blue, we ran full battery tests with the doctors. They checked every possible reason why it could have happened. Everything checks out. It was absolutely clear.
How'd they treat it?
They just gave me blood thinners. So I spent the week in the hospital on blood thinners. They finally let me out. And I remember the doctor specifically saying...
What do you mean finally let you out?
Well, they didn't want to let me go because they were monitoring me for a while. I mean, it was a long time in the hospital, especially, you know, going from being very active to all of a sudden being stuck in the hospital bed. And
for how long?
For about a week.
Okay.
Yeah. And them telling you that you shouldn't be doing anything. You should just lie there, don't walk, don't move, you're in danger. I'm like, all right. And I mean, I specifically remember coming a week out, seeing the doctor, and he told me that I should not or would not be able to ever train anything heavy again.
So
like that stuck with me.
So the old adage of don't lift anything over 40 pounds is a universal global thing.
Yeah. Like he told me you're lucky if you can pick up over a suitcase. You shouldn't train anything heavy. You can consider going on walks, maybe running, light, you know, aerobic exercising.
Did he give you any reason why?
Just said it won't be possible after this. Like it's a lot of damage. And for the first month, I would have probably agreed with him. Because I remember as soon as I came home, I stayed over with my parents and I tried to go out for a walk with my dog.
Well, how did you feel after he told you that?
Destroyed, devastated. It's like I had no prospects or even the idea that I'd be in strongman doing what I'm doing now. But even then, spending a few years getting back into a very athletic shape, having spent my whole young life as an athlete, multiple different sports and so on, being told that you're no longer allowed to do this is like, it was a kick in the nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got home. I remember specifically trying to take my dog out for a walk. My father came along with me just to make sure I was feeling okay.
And not drop dead.
I barely made it to the curb outside the house. I was choking on my lungs. I was spitting blood. I was out of breath. I was passing out. And I was like, okay, this is way worse than I thought it is. Like I could not walk for more than 5 minutes. But yeah, I took it to heart what the doctor said, that I won't be able to train heavy again. It got me really pissed off. So over the next month, I committed to every day taking a few steps more. I would go out, force myself to go on these walks, no matter how much it hurt my lungs, it hurt my the chest, the breathing, all of it. And my body hurt from the lack of oxygen and the lack of ability to do anything.
Would that have been the rehab that they would have wanted you to do anyhow?
Somehow they never really covered that. That is a very overlooked part of it.
Well, I mean, you would think, right? Because otherwise, you're just going to stay in the house and not move?
That's what they expect the average person to do, I guess. So, yeah, just recover, take your time, go on light walks or something. That's it.
So how long did it take until you got to a point to where you felt like you could do more than just walk down the street?
Almost a month. It was almost a month before I thought that I could probably get to the gym and start with something extremely light. And as I mentioned this story to many people, it was specifically that first training session that I showed up to the gym. I met a friend there who the week before trained at Clint's place. He's like, oh, Clint is this really amazing American strongman. You have to come out and train with him. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I was literally just in a hospital a month ago. I can barely walk outside. Like, this is my first ever training session. I went from back then deadlifting, 440 to struggling curling a few a few.
Now, Cyprus
dumbbells.
is not that big.
No, it's a small
So
place.
did you did you hear of Clint before this? Just
I heard of him. Yeah.
And what did you hear of him before all this?
I remember specifically the first time I heard about him was at the supplement store that I was picking up some electrolytes, protein powder, etc. And they told me, "Oh, do you know about this crazy American guy that trains in his own shack?
Yeah.
He does strongman. He's like a really good strongman." I was like, "No idea. Look him up." All right, looked him up. I think I even sent him a message once saying, like, they told me about you. He's like, "Yeah, you should come over." But you know, as it goes, like someone says, "Come over," you don't really take that seriously usually. I should have come over then. But anyway.
So you meet this guy that knows Clint.
Yep.
And then the next week you're over at his place?
Yep. The next week I'm over at his place. Surprisingly doing way better than I thought I would. Clint shows me all his equipment. I get under the yoke. I run around the farmer's handles and so on. I remember after the first 30, 40 minutes of training, I was ready to throw up in the bushes. And then I kept going and going.
Now, with that, so if we're going with throw up in the bushes because of the lung capacity or throw up in the bushes just because of the work?
Both.
Okay.
Mostly the lung capacity, probably, but both. Especially with Clint, there's always an intensity of training. I think that's something that's always pushed me in training as an athlete. I'll send him my videos every week and then he'll send me a video back. Even now when I think I can do a little more weight than him, he'll send me a video back and he's like, "Well, I got a PR by 1 kilogram today." I'm like, "Well, now I have to get something." Yeah. So
he made it a point to tell me that he still out deadlifts you.
Yeah, sure.
So
with bands and chains.
He didn't mention that, right? So after that first session, you're hooked.
Yes, absolutely hooked. I never knew about the sport. I saw the sport on TV. I saw it on TV. I heard about it before. It was always interesting to me as a kid.
Now you're still about 260 pounds at that time?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm still very light guy. So after the first week, I was surprised that there's something this available to me in Cyprus. Every single Sunday after that, I was coming over to his place to train with him. We had a small group of a handful of people that trained. And within the first 3 or 4 months, I believe, I was in my first competition.
Yeah, I was going to say Clint, was it like a week or two? Did that... Because you have a competitive history in paintball and all these other things. Were you looking for a competitive outlet, or did it just kind of come across?
Yeah, it came around. I did not expect it. It was a surprise. I even thought to myself that for sure I'm not ready for it. I mean, I was just in the hospital a month before that. And Clint said, "Look, there's no harm. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to have fun." So
or die.
Well, could be fun.
Yeah, but that's not going to work with Clint Darden, right? When your experience up until that point in time was training in commercial gyms, I assume. Yeah. Right. So you go from there to his place. Yeah. What was the first impression of? Because it's like a one car. Is it even a garage? It's like a.
You wouldn't be able to fit a car in there.
Yeah, so
it's a shack shed, and with a lot of outside area. So we have space for the yoke runs, etc. But all year round, I mean, that's always been a plus in competitions because I'm used to either whether it's the cold or the heat, whether it's a dirt ground or it's wet and raining. I'm used to it because that's what I train in.
Well, there's kind of an advantage there too, right? Yeah. Because you don't know anything else actually exists at that point in time. Commercial gyms and shed. Yeah. Right. So it's not till later where you'll go into other gyms and be like, that was a shed. Yeah. you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So with limited equipment, well, let's get into your first strongman show. So 4 months into that. Did you go in it? Did you gain? This is Clint Darden we're talking about. Yeah. I'm assuming you did not go in at 260.
No, I think I was close to close to that, maybe closer to 280 at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then where was this competition at?
In Cyprus.
Okay.
Yeah. They were hosting there was a big CrossFit event, and Strongman was done as a part of it on one of the days as a separate Strongman competition for amateurs.
What were the events?
I don't even remember now. There was a yoke for sure. There was a lug. I believe there are sandbags. And one or two others. Yeah, there was a car deadlift. And I did terribly. I remember I came in something like 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that. I mean, I was pushing myself to do what I did. But I was absolutely hooked on it.
If the goal going in was to have fun, then was that achieved?
Definitely. It was my first taste of a strongman competition. A first taste of what it could be, especially with Clint's guidance on the training, on the coaching. It really appealed to me right away. I could feel that I could see myself doing this for a long time. And we had a few other guys that also were preparing for the competition that came out to train with Clint. They were very gung-ho about about strongman being, their passion. That's what they want to do for the next foreseeable future. Right now, I believe it's just Clint and me still doing it in Cyprus. There's a few new guys. There's a guy that trained with us also, but he's an amazing PT now and just doesn't have the time to train as much as he did before. But that point really got me hooked on it. What
changed from that first competition to the second?
So, what changed? Clint kept pushing me to compete always. I think he saw talent in me right away. He always said that, it'd be a shame to waste all that talent that you have. And I absolutely agreed with him. I spent most of my young life being very athletic, participating in a lot of different sports at a very competitive level. Then I had some injuries, life circumstances. I got busy with work, so I completely forgot about the athletic part of it.
What were the injuries?
My first ever big injury, I was 20. I ended up slicing my whole hand to the bone. That was the first time a doctor told me that I would not be able to lift anything heavy anymore.
How did you do that?
Late after work, very tired, ended up going through a window, cutting it to the bone, protecting my belly from getting cut by putting my hand under myself. So really unfortunate accident.
Just an accident, yeah.
Very unfortunate accident. Really changed a lot of different the paths that I was on, let's say, in my life at that point. But that took me some time to recover from. As I said, that was the first time a doctor told me I wouldn't be able to lift anything heavy.
What were you lifting for at that time?
It wasn't anything specific. I did not know anything about a proper gym protocol. I just went to the gym and trained, especially with a group of guys. A few of them were ex-military, ex-police, or current military and police. So I just trained whatever they trained. And, they were deadlifting, so I deadlifted. They were doing rows, I did rows. So I had no idea. I was just strong.
Would you say it would be more bodybuilding style or more CrossFit type style?
It would be more bodybuilding. Especially back then, other than playing rugby or playing different sports, I would also be swimming for maybe hours on end throughout the week. So it was generally very athletic shape. Definitely much lighter too.
Oh yeah. Well, at that time so you have the training, the swimming and, paintball or whatever you're in. If you were to kind of prioritize those, was the training at the top? Like, did you like doing the training more than the swimming, or was it just kind of all in one same thing?
I'd say it was just a part of it because, for paintball, I knew I needed to get quicker at something. So we would go and we'd train Gee, what did we train? We trained abs, crunches, push-ups, some dumbbell curls, you know.
Now, you did that at a high level, right? Internationally?
Paintball, yeah. Back then, when I was still competing, our team in Cyprus came in third in all of Europe. So it was, on a pretty good level then.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very amazing experience. We traveled all over Europe, met a lot of new teams. It's like there's a lot of considerations, like the way powerlifters now, strongmen, think about taking all their knee sleeves or wraps or deadlifts or belt, so on. All of us were traveling with a whole separate suitcase that included our gun, our paint, our gear. The gun had to go through the special customs. So there's a whole procedure to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot more involved than just bringing your
no, I can see that. Yeah.
So that was very exciting always. It was entirely different.
Yeah. So getting back to the strongman and the second competition, how far, because you compete a lot, right? So in that second competition, did Clint have you enter an open division? Or because strongman's in a way it's kind of like powerlifting, but in a way it's not. You know, there's different divisions. I assume there's like a novice and not.
Yeah.
And knowing Clint, I don't believe novice is going to be the option, right?
No, right away he told me there's no reason to be a novice for me specifically. There is a place and a time to compete in novices. I think it is an amazing opportunity for people to try out the sport, to train in it, see whether they like it, or to just even have fun on a weekend. Something they don't have to take.
They may not
seriously.
know the events that well either.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, he right away always pushed me to aim higher, do more, have fun at it, but do more. I think the second competition I did was at, so there's an intermediate level. Let's say if you're no longer a beginner, this is something that you can do before you ever get to any open class professional. So it's like a open intermediate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a level before getting into just an open class.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the weights are a little bit lighter, but not by much. And it's still, like in England, it's a very competitive class still. That was my second competition.
Was that in England or was that in Cyprus?
This one was in England.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the third one again was back in Cyprus. At that point, I was already competing on a high enough level where I remember I lost to that competition in Cyprus to a professional, a Russian professional weightlifter, so a gold Olympic medalist. It was a tough competition. It was surprising and impressive.
What do you mean by surprising?
It was surprising to me to see that I could be on an Olympic level of strength. It was almost a shock to me because I knew I'm getting strong by that point. I was nowhere near strong to be a professional strongman as they are in the WSM right now. But I was not far off an Olympic athlete, maybe not in his absolute prime.
Yeah.
But to be there and realize that, just a little bit more, a little more training, a little more diet, a little more weight, a little more this and that. And if I can throw it all together and get serious about it, I can actually get there.
What did you weigh for that one?
I think I was still around 320. Yeah, 320, 330.
All right. So at that point, you're up 80 pounds?
Yeah. And at that point, I also realized that I need to get a lot of weight.
Why did you realize that?
The guy was bigger than me. He was heavier for his size. I was much taller and I was almost the same weight as him. So I realized, and then again, at this point, I'm watching every single professional WSM competitor over the last 10, 20 years. I'm seeing what they're doing. I watched every single video, every single competition. I've rewatched it hundreds of times on repeat the lifts. And then I would, oftentimes after training, I would take videos of my training, and then I'd put up a video next to one of these WSM athletes, so like a Big Z or Shaw at that time. And I would be comparing what am I doing exactly that they are doing differently. How can I do this better? How can I come closer to how they're doing it? And I would spend hours like that every evening after a training session, trying to analyze what I did, and I would come out better for the next training session. There would always be an improvement. And the one trend I realized is that I had to be bigger. There was no other way about it.
How were you going about gaining weight at that time? Because everybody goes through a different migration of that.
Yeah. So I think for the next competition there, I shot up all the way up to 441 pounds in body weight.
How long are we talking now?
That was over about a 6 to 8 month period.
So 6 month period of time, 100 fucking pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So
okay.
When people say they can't gain weight, they haven't tried really hard.
Yeah. Well, what did that look like?
That looked like...
well, here's why I'm asking, because a lot of people that will do this, right, they'll just start pounding food, right? So breakfast, they eat a ton of food, but then they're satiated until 3. Yeah. Right. And then the total caloric intake over the day may not be that much different than what they were currently doing. Yeah. Because they just think they need to eat more. But when you break it all down, that's not the case. So how did you go about?
A great influence on this was, I'd say, watching Eddie Hall's diet breakdowns, where he would eat a ton of different food. It was a lot of palatable food that you could easily eat even if you're full. And then once you're done with it...
Well, such as what?
Such as a pizza or a burger or something like that. And then once you're actually done with that, with your steak or whatever food, and I'll go over what I did, he would then have a pie, like a cheesecake, to finish it up as a dessert. I remember specifically he'd have half a cheesecake for lunch and half a cheesecake for dinner.
Yeah, because you'll eat that.
Yeah, you will eat that. That is a highly palatable food, even if you're full, and you'll stuff it. So I would have a heavy breakfast, usually oats and eggs. I never eat often, but I'll eat the 2-3 times a day, 3 times usually, and be big amounts of food, and I'll take my time eating it. So my lunch or dinner could be 2 hours sometimes in length, especially back then when I was putting on a lot of weight. So my lunch should be some sort of salads, greens with a lot of meat, chicken or steak. And then every single dinner after training, I would actually start firing up burgers on the grill. And while I'm waiting for the burgers to fire up, to cook, I would have a pizza ordered, 2 pizzas specifically, that would be delivered pretty much at the same time that the burgers are coming all off the grill. And the 2 pizzas with about 1 kilogram, 2 pounds, 2.2 pounds of beef, I would put the burgers between 2 slices of pizza.
Pizza burger.
Yep. And I would finish all 2 pizzas and 2.2 pounds of burgers for dinner. That was dinner. Until I finished it, I would not walk out of the table. I knew I had to put on the weight, and that was it. And then I followed it up with any kind of dessert that I could
So what time of the day was your training then? In the afternoon?
Yeah, with Clint back in Cyprus, we trained usually later in the evenings, after 6-7, especially through the summer. It gets so unbearably hot. We're talking some summers upwards of 40-45 degrees Celsius. We're talking that's 110-120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now, for those that don't know, where is Cyprus?
Cyprus is at the absolute end of the Mediterranean Sea in Europe, surrounded by Egypt, Turkey. Yeah. So it's not as close to Greece as people think it is. Yeah. There's quite a bit of distance between them. Yeah. The main language is still Greek there.
So with equipment, you know, and I kind of know because I've known Clinton forever, right? It's not like you can just go down the street and buy equipment.
No, definitely not.
So you have to either make it or order it and wait forever for it to get there, and fix things when they broke.
Yeah.
So what equipment during this time frame did you actually have to train with?
So Clint's always had a surprisingly good collection of equipment. Some of it was custom made for him that he brought over from the US when he first moved. So it might have been the first mock-up of a monolift, but absolutely manually made on swinging hooks and whatnot. A lot of the stones, he shipped them over. So the stones were always amazing to use. And we're talking, these are stones that had a lot of athletes when they were just starting out over 20 years ago. They used them. And then I got to use them and train with them. So a lot of the equipment that he had could almost have a historical, like a part of history to it. So
he had yokes and
he had the yoke that, again, the yoke, I believe empty, the yoke is 350 pounds. So like if you want to start out with his yoke, you don't have a choice. You're starting out with 350 pounds, which makes it great for training. You barely have to load anything onto it to move up, but that's your bare minimum starting point.
So when you hit this meet at 440 pounds,
441.
Right? So I know the misery of gaining the weight in such a short period of time. But when I would push weight, and not that heavy, but like that, all I had to do was squat, bench, and deadlift. Like just walking around, like going to the zoo was out of the question. You couldn't, like, even if it was this gym, I would have to think like, okay, I need to go to that bench rack. And then I'm going to lean on that for a little bit till the back subsides. Then I'll go to the monolift and lean on that. Then I'll go over there to the jump box. You don't have that option if you got to do a yoke.
No, you don't.
Or a carry. So how did that work out?
So I do have to thank my general athleticism. So I've always been a good athlete. I've always had the cardio.
Yeah, but you're throwing a 100-pound vest on.
It carried me through a lot of it. But it was difficult. I remember for that competition specifically, again, it was in England. It was the Body Power 2018, I think. My brother came along with me. And he had to help me walk around. I didn't even know what a CPAP then is. Like I figured out I probably needed something really quick because I could not sleep for more than 4 hours at night without waking up, like choking or suffocating, and like nobody told me specifically about, all these disclaimers that come with being 441 pounds.
Yeah.
So
not a whole lot of people know.
Yeah, exactly. Especially it's not just fat, of course. There's a lot of muscle mass, just mass, all sorts of different mass in play here. So I remember even so we settled in at the Airbnb for the competition, and I had to go get some food somewhere, and it was maybe a 5 to 10 minute walk to the pizza place, and I struggled. We had to stop him maybe once or twice and lean on the wall for me to like deal with a leg cramp or ab cramp or back cramp and like get my breath back before we could continue walking to get more food. So it was difficult, but coming into the competition, I think when it's go time and the adrenaline kicks in, that 1 minute of activity, you've got it in you. You will push yourself, especially if you have some experience as an athlete already. You know that when it's go time regardless. You can be all out of breath as much as you want after it. During that 1 minute, you have to perform. I do remember I had some people helping me out then. I was very lucky. Rhiannon Lovelace, the strongest lightweight woman. Back then, she helped me out a ton. I remember I was on the floor in between the events, and I was cramping and out of breath so badly. And it was a very fast competition. I don't remember exactly what, but it was something about 2 hours for 8 to 10 athletes to run through everything. It's a very
what would be normal?
At least 3
Okay.
3 hours,
Right.
3 hours, 4 hours would be a normal competition. You get some rest in between. For 6 events, just under 2 hours is really pushing. Especially we're talking a lot of these guys that I was with in there. They were also very heavy guys.
Yeah.
And all of us were on the floor. Like there's pictures that Clint keeps laughing at where we're all lying on the floor and someone else is trying to put on our shoes or our knee sleeves on or wraps, and we're just out of breath. We're passing out. We can't even see straight. They're calling your name and you're like rolling over to get up to it. But I still did pretty well. That's the first time where I was being this heavy. I realized how much potential there is of the weight that you can actually move. My deadlift, without having ever attempted the PR at that weight in training, I got on the platform and it was the easiest deadlift I've ever done. And it was a PR for reps. So yeah, I saw the potential in having that much weight. Now, granted, I knew I could not be that much weight for a long time. It was very difficult. I think the moment I did the competition, within a week, I dropped about 20 pounds just because I stopped eating that much food. It's the body refused to keep it on. But since then, I've been at a stable 400 pounds. So that is a sweet spot that my body found. Being around 400 pounds, I can always gain or lose 10 to 20 pounds within a week, quite easy. Sometimes within a day or two, just, getting a good bloat on. If I lose 10, 15 pounds, I become very athletic. I can easily run with any kind of weight, with the yoke, with the sandbags, any very fast moving event. If I know I have a lot of static log or deadlifts, putting on 15, 20 pounds over 2-3 days, again, is very easy for me at this weight. And then I get a lot of static strength. I blow up into the deadlift suits. I get a lot out of it. And it's nice because my wife is in powerlifting, and seeing her have to make an appropriate weight for the competition and then compete at a certain weight and so on, and worry about what exactly she weighs on and not going too much. And then there's me where I can be whatever weight I want to, as long as it fits what I actually need to do. So it's a lot of freedom. It's great.
How do you figure that out? I mean, because you don't know the events until everyone's different. But say you know the event 6 weeks out. Will the events determine how heavy you want to be?
Yeah, so we'll have a rough idea of what possible events there might be. Usually we don't know the exact events sometimes until the day before. So I might know that there's a deadlift. I'll know if it's a deadlift for reps or a deadlift max. Or let's say I'll know there's a medium weight yoke or a heavy yoke, and that's about it. So that would dictate, on average, I'll take a look at what events there are.
Well, that could kind of be enough to know if you need to be heavier or lighter, right? Because if it's for reps or longer distances, you're going to be lighter.
Unless it's a heavier for reps, then So we'll take a look at the average of the competition, what the events are. Clint has a really great idea of what I can do or can't do in numbers, what my good events are. So he'll be really good about telling me, all right, you need to be either a little heavier or a little lighter, and then I'll do the rest of it.
With that event that we were speaking about in England, was that at the pro level at that point?
That was, so that competition specifically would be just under what you'd consider an entry-level pro. It was an open class competition. There were some really great athletes at it, and I remember the first place got a year's contract with a big supplier, manufacturer of sporting goods. Like, they fully covered your travels, your gear, competitions, etc. So it was a great opportunity. I remember I came. I don't want to get it wrong now, but I think I was in the top 3, and that was with missing the last event because I tore a nab. So if I got to compete, the judges would refuse to let me at that point for my own safety. They had the staff there look over me. They're like, yeah, you definitely have some weird something going on with your ab. We don't feel comfortable letting you even like take the yoke out.
How did that happen?
There was an event that involves pulling a rope to get a weight up a height. And I think being the mass that I am, I pulled really hard, and all that tension pulling it backwards, I felt a pop in my ab. And like insane pain, but then, like, I finished
is it lower ab or
it was the upper ab.
Okay, so
yeah,
upper.
Yeah. So yeah, it was excruciating pain, and being already out of breath and having that pain. Yeah, they wouldn't let me continue, but I still came, as I said, probably I think third without doing the last event. So it was a little bittersweet. Yeah. But yeah, I still felt good about my place there. Like, I recovered from them very quickly. So
when did the strongest man in Cyprus happen?
That's a good question. I think that was that might have been after it. Yeah.
Now, would that be on that same series, or is that at a different level?
No, so that's a different level at that point. At that point, nobody really showed up to compete. A downside of being the strongest on the island is that other people don't want to compete against you. So it was 3 of us that were all training with Clint at that time, and a Russian athlete that showed up. Yeah, so it was just the 4 of us competing, and none of the locals wanted to compete because they knew I'm competing.
Yeah.
The following year, I remember specifically, they asked me if I'm going to be competing. And I told them no. I was already at I think I had some professional level competitions planned. And there were at least 8 to 10 athletes that showed up to compete in the next one in the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you compete?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I did show up, but not to compete. So
you have to travel to compete.
Yes, definitely. So now I'm competing with the Strongman Champions League. They're an amazing, let's say, league federation. We do 16 stages every year, plus the finals. So you have up to 16 potential opportunities to compete within the year. Every single stage is in a different country. I'm hosting one of them. I hosted one last year. I'm hosting another one this year in Cyprus in October.
What was that like?
That was
because that's the other end, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a weird thing, because when you're in a sport, you see the passion when you're in the sport, but then when you get, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You get behind the curtain, then you start to see other crap that you may not actually want to know about. And so what was that transition like to now be on that the other side? I tell a lot of people don't go on the other side. Not in strongman, but in powerlifting, I tell them not to.
I would agree with that advice. It is not for everyone. It was significantly more stressful and harder to organize an event than to compete in one. I remember for the last month leading up to it, I did not have time to train. Like, people ask me, why are you not competing in it? I'm like, I don't have time to sleep. Hosting all this, like, I had to put the sponsors together, I had to put all the equipment together, make sure that everything's fabricated correctly, make every single agreement, the insurances. I cooperated with the mayor directly, with the town hall, with the port authorities, with the police, with the medical staff. There were so many details that pop out of the blue, and someone else comes up to you like, hey, did you do this thing? And you're like, okay, let me add it to the list. Like, I'll get back to it. It was an entirely different experience. Luckily, I have a lot of experience hosting events of a different kind, musical events. So I have some experience on the organizational side, management side, that helped me a lot.
Yeah, but it's a little different, because those are very more organized, and you can find the people that know what they're doing. Yeah. Where in the strongman, you're like finding people that don't know what they're just. Yeah.
So doing it with the Strongman Champions League, I was very lucky because the owners, the founders of it, the people that run it, they're extremely helpful. They want you to succeed doing it. They gave me a lot of help. They take care of choosing the athletes. I just have to provide all the food, the accommodation for them, the travel. I cover all the expenses of it, and I make sure that they get prize money out of it also. And this applies for all the athletes. So me, when I compete now for the rest of the Strongman Champions League competitions, they do cover my travel, my accommodation, my food. There's prize winnings if you do very well. So it's a great experience being a professional athlete, being able to travel the world, being able to see different places. As I said, every single stage is in a different country. You just have to make sure that you're good.
Yeah. How did you feel, let's say a week after the event? Because like the day after the event, you're exhausted and probably don't ever want to do it again. So a week after the event, how did you feel about it?
So actually,
you're doing it again, right? So
yeah, I'm definitely doing it again. Actually, the day after was great. I slept for a lot. I think I slept for 14 hours straight then, once everyone left and was gone. But I had some friends that stayed over that assisted me for the last few days. They flew over from England just to help me out because they know they have the experience helping other competitions. They know just how stressful it is. So it was absolutely immense having their help. But we got together, we hung out, and just talking about the experience, I already had ideas for this year of what we can do better, how we can make it, more interesting, bigger, better sponsors, better this, better that. So I'd say I was already fired up from the next day after the event. A week after, it only got better from then on. I'd say it was such a positive experience having all these athletes that I've been on their side quite a few times participating in these competitions, to then being able to do the same for them and seeing how much work and effort actually goes into this. It's not you just get together and lift some weight.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. So seeing it from this side of it, I had a lot of appreciation for it. And it makes me love the sport even more. It also makes you appreciate, luckily, like all these guys are professional athletes, but it makes you appreciate all the other organizers that have to deal with small complaints that, something wasn't ideal, this one small thing was off or another small thing was off. And like being able to see that and appreciate how much effort they probably put into it for that one small thing to be complained about is ridiculous. Yeah.
Why I don't think you appreciate that until you actually run something.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's that other side. That's actually a good part.
Yeah.
Of that other side. How many events do you think that you've competed in?
It would be close to about over 10 competitions now. Yeah.
And when was the last one you competed in?
The last one was actually, I set a Guinness World Record in February, but
we'll talk about that. It's different.
The last competition I did was in 2022, actually, I think, when I tore my bicep attempting a world record.
Which event was that?
That was the Fefer in Norway.
What number event? How deep were you into the competition?
Oh, no, I did the whole competition.
Yeah.
I did pretty well. And then the few days after, I attempted setting the world record right after it. So I tore my bicep then, and I had to recover. And then I had issues with...
How did you tear it?
So I picked up the stone. The goal was to lift it off the ground. So people have walked with it starting off a pedestal. Nobody has ever managed to pick it up off the ground and walk with it. It's a 420 pound stone, and you're supposed to pick it up off the ground, in my case for the record, and then walk with it as far as you can and come back. I took the first attempt. I it's a very odd shaped stone. It's a natural stone, looks like a pillar. It has a lot of sharp edges. So the first attempt, I picked it up, I put it on my knee. I could feel my knee cramping up, like my calf, my quad was cramping up, but I'm trying to find a balance and trying to hug it. I pick it up. And I think I took maybe one step, but it was not balanced in my hands correctly. It was getting really rough. I spent almost a minute just struggling with it on my knee, or at least it felt like a minute, when you're in that. So I dropped it down. I took some, like a break, 10, 15, 20 minute break. We went over all the possible different ways I can actually pick it up better. So I went for the second attempt. It was much better. I actually got it on my knee very quickly. I picked it up. I started taking a few steps. And I think just because of the way I stepped down onto my foot, most of the weight was resting in my left arm. And then the whole bicep just popped off with it. With the stone, I just dropped the stone right away. And it was like a shock because that whole summer, I was already 2 competitions in. And I had another 4 competitions that I was booked for, that I had the flights already arranged for. And the first thing that goes through my head when I pop the bicep is not the pain or whatever. I'm like, crap, I can't compete now.
Yeah.
I can't train, I can't compete.
Well, did they give you the record though? Because you took a few steps.
Yeah,
right?
I took a few steps. I am the furthest to have walked with it so far.
Yeah.
So yes, I technically have the record.
Now, did they have to reattach the bicep?
Yeah. So it was a complete tear off the bicep. I had some good friends there that recommended a really great surgeon in Germany. He does more than 60 to 90 bicep surgeries every single year, and the same amount of pec surgeries every year.
Well, that brings up an interesting thing too, because you have to travel to all these different countries. Yeah. If you tear something off, you have to get it fixed there or travel back. So why there instead of traveling back?
Okay, so
I mean, it's just I don't want to downplay it, but it's just a bicep, right?
It is just a bicep, but at the same time, I feel like the bicep is used a lot more.
No, it is definitely used.
So,
yeah.
I could definitely feel the difference of not having it.
Oh, of course.
It's suddenly a whole muscle that's gone, and my biceps are like, they're large.
Yeah.
So it's a big muscle group for me. I tore my pec a few years before that, and I had it done in Cyprus. And unfortunately, these kind of injuries, because Cyprus is small, they don't have that level of experience to deal with them. The pec surgery, I think this doctor that did it, it was his second or third time ever reattaching a pec.
Now, was it the pec tendon completely off?
Complete, both upper, lower, completely off the bone. And that happened right as COVID was starting. So everything was on quarantine.
How do you do that?
Benching at the gym, just the most random, regular training
super
session.
Specific for strongman too, right?
Yeah. So I don't bench anymore because I realized I don't need to bench.
Yeah.
Went in benching. It was a lightweight, 170 kilos, like 380 pounds roughly. It was supposed to be a 3-rep thing, and then I literally was supposed to. That was the last exercise, and I was supposed to leave the gym. That's it. In the first rep, I start pushing it off. Sudden like Velcro sound. It's difficult to forget. Every time I'm benching now, I can still hear the sound in my head, even though it's not actually happening. It is difficult to forget that specific sound.
Was it the same sound with the bicep?
No, the bicep was more of a single like
pop.
Thwang. Yeah, like a rubber band or some string popping. Very different.
Yeah. So with the pack, I'm sure you were told you shouldn't train anymore.
Yeah.
Because I was told that with that's what everybody's told. So the bicep, you go to somebody that's already repaired a lot. So I'm going to assume he's not telling you.
No, it was very different. So with the pec, it was a very difficult operation. He admitted that it was the hardest operation he did. It's still a little bit deformed. It looks a bit different, feels a little off, but it's functional. Knowing that I did not want the same thing happening with my bicep, I did find the best surgeon possible in Europe. I did travel to Germany. It was a great facility, great doctor. He has a lot of experience, and I remember specifically on the intake sheet at his clinic for the for the first, let's say, inspection of the bicep, the pre-surgery. His whole form has a bunch of boxes that you can tick of whether you're a bodybuilder, a strongman, a powerlifter, or a weightlifter, or what kind of other athlete, what exercises you do, what are your maxes. And I've never had a doctor actually ask me those questions. He knows what these mean.
Mm-hmm.
He asks whether you're a professional athlete or not. So he wants to know how serious this is for you, whether you actually need to do it, what kind of protocol you need after it. So he has a very different methodology. He does not use metal anchors. He uses a silicone anchor into the bone that it's weaker to start with, but over time it heals over much better than a metal anchor would. And I must say my repaired bicep feels better than my healthy one.
Yeah.
So
you just need to tear the other one then.
Sometimes it feels like that. Yeah.
Get that done. Yeah. So without even speaking about injuries, we've got an ab, we got a pec, we got a bicep.
Yeah.
So
and there's the hand.
And then the hand, right? So what other major injuries have you had to contend with?
I tore my quad. I tore my quad squatting.
Now, was that one that had to be repaired too?
No, thankfully that was a partial tear. It did take me quite a while. It still sometimes hurts. So it's an annoying injury, one of those that lingers around. There's no reason to repair it, but it reminds you of it all the time. So obviously I had the pulmonary embolism. I did tear my right bicep partially doing a yoke run. That was 1,100 pounds, 500 kilos. Just having those 500 kilos on your back, it shifted off slightly off my shoulder, and I heard a pop in my bicep. And I was like, oh, crap. But I kept walking with it. There's nothing to do about it. And I remember the rest of the competition, I actually finished it pretty much doing everything with my left arm. So all the events that there was a stone to shoulder, instead of shouldering with my right arm that I practiced for, I shouldered everything with my left. The deadlift I could do without a problem. Some other events, but yeah, pretty much everything ended up being on my left arm instead. So it surprised me that, without focusing on it, I could still do everything pretty well with it.
So if we take all these injuries and kind of add them all up, then the loaded question that I would have for you is why do you still do this now?
Why do I still do it?
Here's why I'm asking that, right? Because every strength athlete goes through, these ebbs and flows, right? The injuries are usually when things are not the best.
No, definitely.
And then you
not
question
the best,
a lot, but the heavier weight, the eating, everything associated with this lifestyle, it's a grind, over a long period of time. And there's going to be highlights and there's going to be high times and low tides. Yeah. Right. So when you are at a low tide, that's when you start questioning, why do you still do this now? So that would be, how do you answer that question during those times?
That is a good question. I'm lucky. I've got Clint and my wife Lily, both on my side. They do remind me often. And to me, when I was a younger kid, I never knew specifically that I could compete in strongman, but I always wanted to be the strongest kid. I was always the biggest kid in school. So I assumed I want to be the strongest too. It was never an actionable goal that I pursued. I was just the strongest kid I know. When I played rugby, I was the biggest guy in the field. When I was in paintball, I was the tallest guy and the biggest guy, and everyone mocked me that I'm so big, I'm easy to hit, and yet I'd be the one on the winning team usually. Or the last man standing, which is even more ironic. And almost every sport that I played, I was always the biggest. And until I got into strongman, I didn't realize that I actually have a potential of being the strongest or get as close to it as I can. So I do have a dream of competing at WSM. I do have a dream of competing at anything else that's on WSM level. So whether it's the Arnold Classic, at the Giants Live, the Show Classic. I want to be there, and I want to find out what my best potential is. So my biggest fear is actually not finding out what I can do with my talent. So I guess you could say that's the goal, is wasting the potential and the talent that I do have and not pursuing the best of it.
No, but that can add to those darker times.
It does.
Right? Because you can do all the work, but this still comes down to somebody has to invite you.
Yeah.
You know, so you could literally be stronger than all those people, but not get that invite.
Yeah.
Which can lead into that, what the hell am I still doing this for?
Yeah. So that is the dark side of it. But I guess also I can appreciate it having been the organizer. Strongman specifically is it's a circus show, a performance show, an entertainment for the audience.
That's a better way to describe it.
Yes, the weights we're lifting are real. Yes, the competitiveness, the difficulty of it is absolutely real. But what makes it possible, especially at a bigger level, especially for the professionals to actually be able to do it not on their own dime, but actually get paid to do it, to have all your expenses covered, to be popular, etc., is the fact that there's an audience that wants to see you do this. This audience wants to pay to see you do it. They'll buy your merchandise. They'll watch your show. They'll pay the ticket to come and see it. They'll interact with the sport. They want to see it. So everything that we do needs to cater to the sport. Now, as much as I enjoy powerlifting and seeing my wife compete, it's difficult to watch it for the average person that doesn't care or is not involved in powerlifting. Now, if I'm setting up an event on the street where 10 of the biggest guys you've ever seen in your life, right, the absolute giants, they all weigh 400 pounds or around there, and they're pulling a fire truck like it's nothing, you're going to stop and watch that. You want to watch that. You're like, what the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. So that's what we rely on. Like, having a good competition also means that you have to pick good events for it. So having a bunch of plates on a bar, to the average Joe, yeah, it looks like a lot of weight, but they don't know that it's 400 kilos or 300 kilos. It doesn't make it past a certain level of weight and strength. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it's just heavy. I don't know. But seeing someone pull a big truck instead of pulling a small car when they know they'll struggle pushing a small car down the street, and these guys are running with a fire truck or flipping over a car or, pulling a boat with a rope. Picking these very visual events helps the average person understand it much easier, get a much bigger appreciation for what we're actually doing, and obviously attracts a bigger crowd. So obviously as an organizer, it means that I want to bring the athletes that actually have a good following or that are good showmen. It's difficult having and justifying for me to pay for an athlete that's going to sit in a corner, not going to come out on camera. He's not going to interact with the crowd. He's not going to yell and roar and shout and, pump his fist or throw chalk all over. We want that. It looks great for people. So having someone that's not going to do that, I cannot justify bringing him over. So that's why it comes down to all the bigger competitions. Yes, they are very heavy. They are at the top level of the sport, but also they need athletes that can make a good show of it. Mm-hmm. There needs to be some sort of drama. There needs to be some sort of entertainment for the people. It needs to be compelling for people to come. So yes, you want to be either someone that's really strong and really good, or you at the very least need to have a good following, good performances at a lower level of competitions that justifies bringing you to these bigger competitions. So yes, every time I have gotten an injury, it did take me, as you mentioned, to the darker side of it, where I realized that, okay, I had a whole plan for the summer, for the year, where I have these 6 competitions. I know that I'm doing really well through them. And halfway through, I get an injury, and I know, okay, now I'm out of 3 competitions. I know that I was supposed to have an invite to WSM one of the years, and I'm obviously out of the running for it because now my bicep is torn. I remember I was invited to a Giants Live competition, and again, that was just after I tore my pec. So here I am, I'm being invited. They're like, can you come? Like, we need you to fill out a spot. And I'm like, I just tore my pec. I wish I could. If I didn't do the surgery yet, I would have done it because, yeah, sure. I mean, it's a pec. I could do something without it. But I just did the surgery too, and it's recovering. I can't do anything. That's it. Like I'm at the gym pushing light recovery weights, and there's no real potential for me there to be a good showmanship on the show. Like, yeah, I could show up, but then if I zero everything, I could tell myself, yeah, I competed it, but then did I really compete at it? Probably not. So yeah, like if I go to a competition, I will want to show a good show of it. So yes, I want to be at the peak, and every time that something happens that gets me out of that, it's difficult to constantly deal with that struggle.
Well, you still haven't answered why you still do it now.
Well, I still don't know. As I said, I want to see my absolute best potential. Yeah. So that is the goal for me. I know I've been told I have the talent. I know I have the talent. I've always been a competitive person in every sport or endeavor that I've tried. So for me, I really need to see what I can do with this. I will not be happy until I know that I've reached my absolute peak potential and have put all the cards on the table.
And how would you define that?
How would I define that? When I'm not.
Well, let me throw it back, right? Because that could be like somebody saying that, I'll be satisfied when I make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, well,
what's the number? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. So the absolute potential, like, what does that mean?
So,
because you could do that in Cyprus, right? In any event, you could just be undeniable, and just do ridiculous shit that nobody's ever seen before. And that could be that absolute potential. But I don't think that's going to satisfy what you're looking for.
No, I would not be happy with that.
Yeah.
Just limiting myself. For me, it has to be out there against the best that you can throw at me. I mean, I remember when I first started training, to me, I would always find someone that I looked up to as an athlete. So I remember specifically at one point, there was the beginning, I looked up Arnold Schwarzenegger's numbers, like what his deadlift is or what his this and that. And I mean, I know he's not a strength athlete, but he's still a big person to look up to. And at some point when I realized that I beat all his numbers, I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, now I'm stronger than Arnold. Who's next on the list? Like, and I would find myself the next best person to beat. So right now, my goal is to get within 10 spots of whoever the best athletes are right now in the world, whether it's WSM or Arnold's Classic. That's what I'm working on. To me, that would be what I justify and quantify as hitting my peak potential. Now, whether I get there or not, that's a matter of time and the effort that I'm going to put into it. But as long as I'm keeping that goal in my head, that's what I'm going for.
Now, the last thing that you just did was the Guinness World Record jump rope anvil thing. So how did that come to be?
So that was about 2 years ago. I was in my off season. I think I just recovered my bicep at that point. Yeah, I think I just recovered from the bicep about 4 or 5 months into it. And Clint and I are in off season, and we're just having fun training and seeing what can we do to make it more fun. So I picked up the hustle. Well, I drew up some hopscotch lines on the ground using some chalk. And I was like, I bet I can jump through the hopscotch while holding a husafel, like a stone weighing, it was about 180 pounds. That was fun. I did it. It looked funny. And then I was like, hold on, well, let's do something dumber. Like, what if you like skip the rope for me and I'll jump with it? He's like, all right, I'll get the camera rolling. So that's how it came to start. It was just the dumbest fun thing we could do at the time. It wasn't super difficult. It took me, I think it was a good half an hour to even get a few jumps in, like the first time, because it was the timing from Clint using the rope, the timing of my jumping, holding the weight, not dropping the weight. So there were a lot of elements to it, but we figured out. I was super happy. I got like 3 jumps out of it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. We recorded it, I posted it, and it barely got any views. Whatever, I was like, cool, whatever. I did it, move on. In October, when I was hosting the competition, one of the main owners of the SEL, he's working with a TV show in Italy, and they directly cooperate with the Guinness World Records. So he's like telling me about it. I'm like, well, if I can help you come up with any events. He's like, yeah, did you do anything crazy? I'm like, well, like, the craziest I did was something like this. It's like, hold on a second. He sends it to right away to them. Within an hour or two, I get a reply like, can you come and do this on the TV show? I'm like, what? They're like, they want you on the TV show to do it. I'm like, sure, all right, I'll train for it, I guess. So yeah.
So how do you train for something like that?
That was a whole different process. So they did tell me that I'm going to be doing it in February. I had about 4 months from the moment that they assigned the date. I knew I wanted to do it as well as I could possibly do it. I mean, it is a Guinness World Record. I know sometimes it doesn't count for much. Sometimes it's really impressive. And to me, the goal was to do it as best as I could do it. And granted, I also didn't know that at the time they were looking for someone to also try and beat it. So someone was supposed to compete against me while setting it. And I didn't know this until the day of the recording. They're like, well, we tried to find someone. Nobody wanted to even attempt this. So I was like, all right, yeah, well, that's a good sign for me. Thanks for telling me beforehand. So the training for it was some stuff I came up with. A lot of the stuff that Clint comes up with somehow, like the craziest approximation of an event. I was also traveling. We're traveling to Czech Republic and then coming back to Cyprus. So a lot of my training had to be improvised. So I did add a lot of more cardio and endurance work into it. I picked up something that was new to me. I always go for a walk almost daily, but I realized that just going for a walk is not enough to build my cardio and endurance for this specifically. So I started rucking. So I would have a backpack, and I started with putting in 10 kilos, 22 pounds, and then I eventually worked up to on the rest days, I would put up to 40 kilograms into the backpack, so 90 pounds roughly. Yeah, and I think my longest walk with that was about 5 miles. And that would be a daily, weekly thing that I would use. And I loved it so much as a method of building up my endurance and cardio that I'm actually to this day still doing this on my daily walks. I'll put in a plate into my backpack and go for the 30-40 minute walk minimum. That has replaced my normal daily walks, just because I think it adds so much extra potential and gains and work to grow off of. So there was that. In training, we worked on a lot of explosiveness, balance, timing. There was a lot of stuff working on like unilateral foot stuff. I've improvised using a belt squat to throwing the harness in there. Instead of putting the harness on myself, I would put it around the med ball and do like static jumps with that in place, to approximate having to have a heavy weight land in my hands, having to jump up into like a little, a toe jump, if you will. So there was a lot of that weekly, a lot of exercises that I thought would directly benefit. The problem with actually training for it is that being 400 pounds and also holding a weight that's like almost 600 pounds of weight, jumping, moving around, and it's difficult on the bones, on the joints, on the muscles. I think I only attempted actual jumps before setting the record twice. And both times I had to recover for more than a week. The second time I got 18 jumps with a slightly lighter weight than was supposed to be in the record. And I could not, I had plantar fasciitis. I could not walk for a week after that. It was terrible. So you cannot actually do the record to train it. You had to find every way around it.
Yeah.
To train it in every little part. I would break it up into little segments of all of it to then have to put it all together on the one day that I attempted it, and the actual record that I attempted.
And how many did you get?
So on the day I got 21 for the record. They told me they didn't even know how to specify what the minimum is. They're like, we've never seen anyone do this. I was even thinking to do it with a heavier weight. They told me specifically for my safety, we have no idea. Let's stick to the 186 pounds, 80 kilos. Yeah, let's stick to that weight for the anvil. I was like, all right, sure. I guess it gives me a potential to do it with a heavier weight next year. So yeah, we stuck with the lighter weight. And they asked me what I think would be a reasonable amount. Well, I told them, I can definitely do at least 10, 15. So how about we'll make it challenging and say a minimum of 15. So they agreed that it was very reasonable to do that. And the guys that were helping me, I really appreciate what they did for me, because during the recording, they could not count for me how many reps I was doing in the moment. And I knew I'll lose count right away, because once I started jumping, after 10 jumps, I'm losing consciousness on the number. I'm like, I just got to jump. That's it. I'll just jump. That's there's the rhythm, the timing, and you almost don't even see the rope. You just know the rhythm that it's coming at, and obviously with holding the weight up, I can't see under my feet where the rope is landing, so it had to be impeccable timing. And we had an agreement with one of the guys that he's just gonna give me a signal as soon as I hit 15 jumps, and he'd be like, I'll tell you something like, okay. So here I am jumping, and I'm jumping. I lost count after 10. I'm like, all right, this must be 15, but I'm just jumping, whatever, it doesn't matter, just jump. And I'm jumping. I'm nearing to the point where my legs are burning and everything. And he says, okay. I'm like, no way, this is 15. I'm like, this is horrible. This is absolutely terrible. But I do the extra jump, and then I'm holding it. I'm flexing for the crowd, for the camera. My legs are burning. I'm out of breath. I'm like, well, I got 16 then. This is great. And he's like, no, you got more. I'm like, what do you mean? We agreed that you told me okay on 15. He's like, no, you're going good. I decided to tell you when you do 20.
Well, you would do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody would do the same thing.
So I really appreciated that. Again, he's an athlete, a strongman athlete. We've competed against each other. He's competed at one of my competitions, the one that I hosted. So having that camaraderie, that he knew exactly what he had to do to help me do what I needed, I genuinely appreciated that. That really helped, because if he told me okay on 15, it would be difficult to force. I would have, but it would have been difficult to justify forcing myself to go through more and more and more when I know that I've hit the mark of what I had to. Yeah.
How has your training changed since you started? You were taking strongman serious from the start, but that increases, right?
Yeah.
The passion, the drive, for that increases over a period of time. And with that, so does the education, so does everything else. And you actually become a professional even without the title professional, you treat it like you're a professional. And when that happens, a lot of other things shift too. Training becomes smarter. You quit doing dumb shit, so how has the training progressed since that point to where you are at this stage where you start realizing things like, well, I couldn't do this event because I tore my pec doing something that wasn't really going to help me in the first place. Right. So that I can see that as a pivotal point of, okay, we need to really focus on what's going to make me better. And so how has that changed over time?
So my training definitely has changed over time. As I said, Clint really knows me well. I've attempted, I have also improvised a lot of my own training. It's with him, it's a more of a free form coaching where he'll suggest a guideline for me, and me knowing myself also and what I can, especially now that I know myself better, I'll improvise. I do not have to complete everything that he puts out to me. He knows I will change it on the fly if I need to. A lot of it has changed, especially being this body weight, the size, and the weight that I have to move on a heavy training day. If I'm deadlifting 800 pounds, there is not much I can do in accessories after that. That's either not going to beat me up completely, or that's actually going to make me grow. So the one biggest thing, for example, that I found for me that works very well is we've moved all the compound big lifts to a specific day, to a training day. I will do the deadlift, for example, or it'll be a heavy log, etc. And then that's it. I'll walk away from the training session. I'll do some mobility work, recovery work, stretching, whatever I need to do. And I'll come in the next day and do all the accessories for that body part. So I'll keep the main lift separate from my accessory work for it, because then my muscles have actually recovered from whatever I have done on that day. Not fully, but to the point where I can actually do a serious amount of accessories and not say that, oh, my shoulder hurts or my back hurts, or, you know, I'm fatigued after the deadlift or the log or whatever. There is no excuse for that. I am recovered. I just need to make sure I eat, sleep, and do all the recovery work that I need to do to be able to come in the next day and do all the accessory work that I need to for it.
So with those accessories on that the day after, how hard do you push those? And I guess what I'm asking is, do you treat that as like a full accessory day, or do you treat that kind of as a recovery day?
It will be a full accessory day.
Yeah.
So being able to split that into those two sessions for the same movement, let's say, allows me to go almost 100% on both days. I am not taking anything away by now doing my main lift. I know that I can, if I need to hit a PR this week, hit a PR next week if I need to, if it's in my training plan, and then not worry about the fact that I have a bunch of accessories that I'll miss out on and not progress because I hit my PR. I know that I can just pack up today, come in tomorrow, and I'll be fully recovered to actually do the work that I need to keep on growing.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing that?
That has been something that we've been doing now for almost 2 years. And I've been at my absolute best, I'd say now, due to that. So that was specifically something that happened around the time when I tore my bicep. I did a lot of recovery work. I was in the gym within the first week after after having the surgery. We knew that I needed to get recovered really quickly. So I did whatever lifts I could, but since it was hurting, just generally agitating my bicep, we say, all right, we'll split it up and do something on the next day. And it came about to that theory that I could recover from whatever I did and do most of it the next day. And having done that for my bicep and upper body, I started doing that for my legs. It worked out. And then my whole training program with Clint has shifted into this system that works very well for me specifically.
So over a period of a year, how does the event training fold into this?
So during the off season, there is going to be a lot less event training, especially when we're traveling a lot. I'll approximate events. So like one of my bread and butter events, trainings that I do is a front squat. It's complements and carries over to a lot of strongman lifts, whether it's carrying sandbags or a weight or doing stones. So we'll do a lot of lifts that generally build a lot of strength without having to waste my time on trying to figure out the actual event. So if the place doesn't have stones, I won't go out of my way trying to find stones, because I can just train front squats if I need to, or I can pick up a sandbag. I don't have to go find stones and find tacky and go out of my way for it. As it gets closer to competitions, I will go out of my way to find the events. I will go to a different gym. I'll drive an extra 30 minutes if I have to, just to find a good yoke or find a set of stones that I can lift to a platform, sandbags that I can throw over a bar, because you do need that event specific training, especially at this level, just so that when you go into a competition, you're not going blind into it. You have done the movement. And these are movements that I have done for a long time. And still, after 8 years of training, there's stuff that I'm figuring out, that even like last week, I figured out a new technique for throwing a sandbag that I did not even consider before that, just because I've been watching the guys from WSM do it recently. And I've put up three of them doing it on video, and I've rewatched all of them doing it about 100 times, and I finally figured out a few new tricks for myself.
The sandbag over the bar kind of sparked something that Clint wrote, where I guess your mother is feared, pretty much across all of Cyprus.
Yeah.
And he needed somebody to build something for him to throw a sandbag over.
Yeah.
And she was over there like that. Can you expand on what that story is? Because it was just like, it's Clint, right? So there's like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to throw this out here because first off, like, why is she feared?
She's got a strong character. She's a very strong character, a strong-willed person, from a time where if you wanted anything done, you had to do it yourself. You had to go out and do it. Nobody would do it for you. You couldn't find someone to do it for you. If you wanted it, you had to go and do it. So she's got a very strong character. She's also an architect. So she's used to bossing people around on a project. She's really good at it. Outstandingly good. So whenever I have any kind of idea, I'll almost suggest it to her. I'll be like, Clint and I need to train this event. And like, I was thinking of doing this and this, like putting this together. She's like, no, that's wrong. You have to do it like this. Like for the structural integrity, you need to tape this here and like do that. I'm like, oh, I don't understand it. Can you show it? And like the next day she'll show up with a bunch of stuff she picked up from the DIY store and like start taping it together. So that's pretty much like, we had to train the sandbag over a bar. I told her like, yeah, I need this specific height, and like I found some PVC pipes and I was just gonna like stick it there. She's like, no, you're doing it all wrong. She came over to the gym, like I didn't even know she's coming over. Like Clint was not even prepared. There he is, like changing his gear and his shorts, sniffing salts, loud music. My mom shows up, he actually turns it all down. So he turns it all down. He's like, oh yes, hi. And without saying a word, whatever, she just like walks into the gym, grabs whatever she needs, grabs a duct tape, and like starts putting together what we actually need on the yoke to do like the sandbag for height. And it worked really well. So
yeah. After she built it, she's off. Is she even watching you guys do it?
No, she. So this is the amazing part of my mother. Like if it's a competition or something, she is extremely proud for me. She'll give me all her support. She wants me to do well, but she's like, I can't watch you. Like I'll show her a video, like she's like, oh, that's terrible, I can't watch. I'm like, okay, well, that's fair. I mean, I understand it. So with
because you travel a lot, and you kind of touched on it a little bit of how you manage your training when you travel as much as what you do. So expand on that a little bit, because it's not like you're traveling from, like Dayton to Columbus.
No,
I mean, you're going from country to country.
So most of our traveling ends up being from the US to Europe. We do stay a lot of the time in the Czech Republic, sometimes in some other European countries if we have friends there, or if it's a competition. And the great thing about CL is that it happens in a different country every month. We have stayed for a week or two in some countries that we really enjoy, just to look at the sites, look at the museums, check out the country, spend some time there. And that presents a challenge, because if I'm competing that competition. In 3 weeks, I have another competition. So it's not like that is off season for me. No, I'm having to stay in shape. I'm having to go, like I've competed on a Saturday. I'll be back in the gym on Monday or Tuesday. So that means I have to find a gym to train at. Usually, thankfully, there's a lot of local strongmen. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have to train at a commercial gym. So it does require a lot of improvising, especially if you're traveling with long flights. It's a little bit easier if you're lighter weight. It's way harder when you're big, when you don't fit in the seat, when your knees are like literally jammed into the seat in front of you. You can't stand, and they keep smashing the trolley into your knee every time they pass by with food or drinks. Well, if they even give you food these days. So there's a lot of that once you get off the plane, you're extremely dehydrated, your knees hurt, your back hurts. And what do you do? Because you obviously can't go and have a max session. That's how injuries happen. That's how I tore my quad. It was a lesson learned that, all right, from now on, like if I'm traveling to a competition and it's taking a long time, I will plan to travel a day or two earlier just so I can spend the extra time recovering from the flight. So when we travel around, being able to do this style of training that I have been doing is extremely helpful because I know I'm not on a critical timetable to do a lift. I can fly in today, go to the gym, do a bunch of accessories, and then know that I'll be probably in a way better shape to do my main lift tomorrow because I have done something in the gym today. I don't have to do my main lift today. There's no strict guideline there. So
if you're traveling, that first session will normally be the accessory session just to kind of get reacclimated. Yeah.
That's it. So the body's moving, the blood's flowing, electrolytes are moving around the body. You get a stretch in, you get a mobility work in, you get a good heart rate in. So you're more acclimated to actually moving again and performing. So that has made a big difference when traveling. And then, of course, being able to improvise the different kinds of events that you have to for strongmen. As I said, like there's always some sort of a approximation that you can do. So if I spend the month or two now working on events specifically for the competitions, then I know that if I'm going to be traveling between my first and second and third competition, that I don't have to worry so much about the events. If I can't find them, I can just do more front squats, more deadlifts, more overhead bar pressing, because I have put in the time to do the event work beforehand. So that would just be technique work at that point.
I need to use the restroom real quick.
Yep.
Are you looking to boost recovery, enhance your sex drive, and improve performance in the gym? Do you think your hormones are out of whack and you're tired of getting the runaround from your doctor? You know, things like your hormones are just fine, stop lifting heavy weights, etc., etc., etc. I know what that feels like as I've been down that road most of my life. This is why we've partnered with Merrick Health. Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that specializes in hormone optimization and preventative medicine, ensuring a better quality of life. Merrick Health offers a table talk panel tailored for our listeners, featuring comprehensive tests like total and free testosterone, sensitive estradiol, and advanced markers like lipoprotein A and IGF-1. These comprehensive panels of up to 84 carefully selected biomarkers allow you to identify areas of enhancement and maximize your physical, cognitive, and sexual performance. It's much different than the panels you may get from your doctor. Choose between self-service options where you can select lab panels based upon decades of experience, or opt for guided optimization with your own health coach. Start with a detailed breakdown of your labs and receive personalized treatment options, both over the counter and prescription. Visit merrickhealth.com/tabletalk and use the code TABLETALK to get 10% off your first order. Merrick Health isn't just about better health, it's about empowering you to take control of your well-being. Summer's here and so is the heat. I've spent most of my life training in unconditioned gyms, and I know most of you that are training in garage gyms, private gyms, black iron gyms, know what I'm talking about when I say the heat sucks. It kills your motivation to go to the gym, it kills your performance, but it doesn't have to. if you keep your electrolytes up. That's why today's episode is sponsored by Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with everything you need and nothing you don't. This means lots of salt with none of the junk. No sugar, no colors, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, no BS. It contains an electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Element can help prevent and eliminate headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, brain fog, sleeplessness, and other common symptoms associated with electrolyte deficiency. Right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any drink mix purchase. Get yours at drinkelement.com. This deal is only available through the Table Talk link. Are you tired of sleeping hotter than hell? This was something that I used to complain about all the time. And a few years ago, when I was having a conversation with friend of mine, he referred me to the Chili Pad from Sleep Me, and let me tell you, it was a game changer. This is why I'm thrilled to announce today's sponsor of the podcast is Sleep Me. The Sleep Me Chili Bed cooling system lets you customize your sleeping environment to your own optimal temperature, ensuring you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. As you've heard on the podcast, if not every podcast, performance isn't just about how hard we train, it's how you recover, and sleep is vital. The Chili Pad creates a cool surface, ensuring temperature no longer disrupts your sleep. It's a water-based mattress topper that works with your existing mattress and lets you control the sleep temperature from 55 to 115 degrees. Imagine falling asleep quickly, staying asleep, and waking up fully refreshed. This isn't just about escaping the heat. It's about enhancing your recovery, boosting your energy, and sharpening your mental edge. Whether it's just you or you and a partner, Chili Pad can be customized to suit each person's temperature preference. Visit www.sleep.me/tabletalk to get your Chili Pad and save up to $315 with the code TABLETALK. This offer is available exclusively for Table Talk listeners and only for a limited time. Order today with free shipping and try it out for 30 days. Hey guys, if you like and want to support the podcast, remember we have limited edition items. These items can range anywhere from t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, cups. You never know what you're going to get. Check them out at www.elitefts.com. All right, we're back. Now that I've taken a piss,
Yeah.
I can bust open the Element Sparkle, which, by the way, are available on their website now. Element is a sponsor of the podcast. So if you go to drinkelement.com, drinklmnt.com/tabletalk, and you order the packets, then you'll get a free sample pack with every order. But the Sparkle, it's interesting to me, and I've pointed this out a few times. I don't even know if they want me saying this, but it's interesting to me because the same amount of sodium and ingredients is in this can that is in the pack. Okay. Now, if I put a pack in the same amount of water, it's way too salty for me.
Interesting.
Where with a whole pack, I'm filling up, something twice that size for it to be palatable.
Yeah, a whole shaker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's something about the carbonation or whatever. I'm confused. Let's just put it that way.
A less salty salt?
Kinda. I mean, for that much sodium, that when you drink that, does that seem like that much sodium?
No, I think the combination of the sparkling is interesting. Like almost always when you have a sparkling drink, it's either a sweet flavor or a juicy flavor, whatever it is. Like this combination of sparkling with salting is actually really interesting.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Well, it doesn't taste nowhere near as salty as the full thing.
The one thing with the Element packs that Peyton Nathan told me about, and he works with a lot of strongmen, I'm sure you're familiar with who he is during events when he would have the athletes the cramp, right? Which happens, right, with you guys, that if they just took a pack, just threw it in their mouth, the cramps would go away. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself when he's telling me that, I'm not sure the body works that way. No. Like it still has to go through the gut, digest. But I've had so many people tell me that as soon as they're actually cramping and they do that, it goes away.
Yeah.
So can't explain why, but it's been validated so many times that if somebody's cramping, it was just last week, it was John, I think, was bitching about cramping. Like, we just take the thing and slam it.
Yeah, so being 400 pounds, that is something that, once again, doesn't come with a disclaimer. When you're trying to get to this weight, you will cramp a lot if you don't take care of it.
Especially in Cyprus in the summer. Cyprus,
yeah. I have a distinct advantage during a lot of the competitions in the summer. A lot of the guys will be complaining that it's hot outside and whatnot. It's at least 10, 20 degrees cooler than it is in Cyprus. Almost everywhere I'll compete.
Yeah.
So for me, this is great weather usually.
Now in Clint's shed,
yeah,
because it's a shed, because what happens here is at a certain point, it becomes hotter inside than it is outside.
Yeah.
By like 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Is that the case with his little shed?
Yeah. It becomes a hot box. We have 6 fans. All pointed in different directions, or if you're deadlifting, all pointing at you, deadlifting. So it works really well. We'll have the doors open, windows open, the 6 fans blowing. I've recently, last year or so, purchased another big fan that takes up like a quarter of the gym.
Is there... Okay, so is there a garage door that opens on it? Is there any way,
a barn door?
All right. So is there any way to create exhaust?
Yeah.
To push the heat out?
Yeah. So it's just about enough. That's why I was mentioning earlier that we often train later in the evening. If in the winter we can train from midday or 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. During the summers, we do not start training until at least 5, 6 in the evening. Something that we've been doing since 2020, COVID, is we'd be training stones at his place after 10 in the evening. So we'd actually start training at 10, 11 in the evening and finish by 1, 2 at night. So when it's actually cool enough to do it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
One question I have with all the traveling, because you're talking about traveling different places. So excluding commercial gyms, because they are what they are.
Yeah.
You have, for lack of a better word, hardcore gyms, black iron gyms, whatever you want to call them. And what are the similarities amongst those in different countries, and what are the differences amongst those in different countries? And I ask because there's a culture, you know, that's associated with strength sports.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that culture is kind of shared wherever you go.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, if I need to train event type equipment for Strongman, a safe bet almost always is a CrossFit gym. Weirdly enough, they will have some sort of equipment that works well enough, bumper plates that you can drop around. There's always going to be a yoke, sometimes a lug, almost always some sort of sandbags. So it might not be heavy, but it's good enough for a training session if you're traveling around. Most often in Europe, almost every Strongman place will be some sort of warehouse or a shed that the guys put all their equipment into. It's a tiny little box, very much like Clint's, usually bigger than Clint's. But it'll be that style where it's, you know, just a few guys that really love Strongman. They put all their equipment together, and it's a great place to train at, because in the tiny little square space, you'll have every piece of equipment that they could think of for a competition. But if you're going to more hardcore gyms, or what most people would consider hardcore, I guess it depends a lot by the country. So when you go to the gym, and if it's Eastern Europe, you'll know it's an IPF gym, because every day there's a group of young guys that are all training their squat, bench, deadlift for 4 days a week, every single day, all doing the same thing, all in their singlets. If it's Western Europe, you'll have more old school style powerlifting, especially in England, where like Dave Beatty's gym that has a lot of strongman equipment, but also a lot of powerlifting. There's some equipped powerlifting. They have monoliths and so on. So it depends what part of Europe, and I think a lot of it also influences what the main federation in that area is.
So the same thing that you would see here.
Yeah.
Out of all those countries that you're spoken about, is there one that strongman would be more popular for that country?
Yeah, definitely England. England is an amazing place for strongmen. There are a lot of amazing strongmen out of England. The one distinct thing that has always impressed me is I might not be popular in England. I don't even live in England long enough, but if I'm anywhere in public transport or in public walking on the street, I will have random people come up to me. It's like, oh, hey, you do strongman? I might have seen you, or like I've seen you on one of the episodes, or hey, you must do strongman. You look like a strongman guy. I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. It's like, it's very surprising and flattering.
Why do you think that is?
They do have a lot more people watching it. It is more cultural there. People will pay to go see a mid to pro level competition. So they will sell out every single ticket in a stadium for people to come and watch it. It's really surprising and impressive at the same time. And people love watching this there.
Yeah, I've always been interested in the why, because some of the default answers will be, well, in the States, you got the NFL, you got all these other sports. I'm like, well, they have rugby and they have soccer, which is pretty big. Yeah, exactly. Huge, right? And so I don't know I don't know why, so I would, no clue. That's why I asked.
Yeah, no, a lot of the guys in strongman in England actually have come out of rugby or some similar sport. Just, I guess there's no justification that I know of. People just really enjoy it there as a cultural sport. It has grown very well as a sport. I think actually, if I were to put a reason to it, is just because of how England's less spread out than the US, and you have almost the same amount of top level strongmen as the whole of the US, but it's all in one small little country.
I get that.
So when you can travel, instead of having to take a flight or having to drive 14 hours to the next closest professional strongman gym, that would be like near New York for me here. I mean, there's a few around Columbus, but I would have to drive at least 10 hours to go see a Lightning gym or so on. And in UK, you could drive 1 or 2 hours and find a professional strongman's gym or a really amazing strongman equipped gym. And they will travel together, meet up every other weekend to train all together. We're talking about the absolute top pros will get together to train on a weekend. So if you're invited to the club and you get to train with them, there's a lot to learn, and people will see them train. They will follow them. They will ask if they come along. People have even just watched us train, which is impressive. Like people just stopping what they're doing in the gym just to watch the 2, 3, 4 strongmen train together.
So would you say in strongman, it's because I've kind of said this with powerlifting, that if you can get around other powerlifters that are better than you, it's going to make you better? Would you say that that's the same with strongman? Yes,
definitely. So one of the biggest things that has helped me progress a lot, and Clint has always pushed this, even not me as an athlete, but him as a coach specifically, is that you need to go out and find someone in the sport to train with. There's so much that coaching can do for you until you go out there and meet another athlete that will impart their view on things, how they do differently, how their nutrition is different, how their recovery work is different. You will pick up small little tricks. The best advice I've always given to any kind of beginners is, especially if they're afraid to compete or to get out there and like, oh, I'm not good enough and whatnot, forget it. Go out, have fun. Same way that Clint made me the first time. If I didn't go out and have fun that first competition, I don't know if I would have done this, but I might have. But I don't know that. But doing that first competition really instilled me with that I want more of this. I want to get with people that do this, that train this. So being able to travel around the world for the competitions and for training, I have met some of the top strongmen. Like I've had even Graham Hicks, for example, come over to Cyprus for a week. I've put on almost 25 pounds on my log within a single training session on my PR, just from one training session with him giving me a small little tip onto it. The same thing has happened with my deadlifts, with my sandbags, with my yoke. Almost every time I train with a professional or a specific expert in that event, I've always learned something new from it.
So how have you been able to keep it fun? Because going back to what we were talking about earlier, when you go through those ebbs and flows and all that, you can lose sight of that sometimes because it becomes competition to competition. It becomes a job, right? Because there's a lot of discipline associated with this that everybody talks about, but I don't think they really get it.
No.
You know, it's almost Buddha-like sometimes, you know, where it's the same thing over and over and over, where that can become, you can have times where you lose sight of that it's supposed to be fun. So how do you reel that back in and keep that in there?
So I think part of it was, as I said, how we came out with the Guinness World Record attempt. It was just something we were doing in the off season, just to see if we could have fun with it. Sometimes it will be a new type of exercise that Clint will throw in, and he specifically puts it in as he'll put it in as a very optional exercise as my guideline.
Yeah, we have some static. It went away.
He'll put it in, and he knows me well. He'll put it in as a very optional exercise in my plan, and almost always I'll do the very optional exercise, and it will involve something new or something that he hasn't tried in the last 20 years. Where just last week I was pulling a medicine ball while someone else is pulling it back with a rubber band. So like that's a great exercise. Absolutely burns the lats. It's fun for both me and the person that's helping me out with it. Everyone in the elite crew had to go with it. So adding in stuff like that will give you some benefit out of it while also being fun is great. When Clint and I are training, he will challenge me with the intensity. I mean, if I've done a rep, he's like, oh, why didn't you do it for 2? So I'll go in and attempt a second single or something at it. Or if we'll be doing sandbags, even if I'm like, or the stones, like if I'm moving around
we have this static again.
I don't know if that's a problem. I don't hear it. So bring your mic closer. Yeah.
Here, we'll just pull the headphones. All right, we're good.
All right.
All right. So throwing in the different exercises would be one thing. Now, to get back to Clint, because he's literally trained through death. Like countless times, right? So I always say you have to have people around you. You have to have realists, then you have to have enablers.
Yeah.
Right? So with him, he probably needs some realists around him at certain points of time.
He's definitely an enabler.
He's definitely an enabler, right? Where have there been times that with his training to where you've wanted to step in and say, dude, this is probably not a good idea?
Yes, he has a good sense, especially lately. He's been getting good sense of when too much might be too much. Especially if you're amped up and you've sniffed the salts and whatnot, the last thing you want to do is not make a lift or be told that you shouldn't do the next one. So while it's pushing the limit, he's always, to some degree, smarter than it looks like on camera, on tape. There's a lot of conversations that we have off camera that are nobody ever sees them or hears them. That, you take a step back. I mean, he'll do the same thing for me where He'll push me, but then if I need to take a step back, he will tell me, that's it, cut it off there. There's no reason to get hurt. You have a competition, you have this, you have to be smart about it. So that's the one thing I was going to bring up with Clint, is that I've learned to appreciate, especially if I'm training with someone, it doesn't always have to be someone stronger than me. It could be someone more proficient with a technique, even if they're doing a lighter weight or they are lighter than me. What I really appreciate is the intensity of work. So Clint might be doing less weight than me, but he's doing it with a much bigger intensity than anyone around him usually ever will accomplish or bring up. It will be a balls to the wall max deadlift, even if it's 100 pounds less than what I'm doing for a rep. But it will push me to be like, okay, if he's doing that, and that's what I want to do. It doesn't have to be the craziest weight today, but I'll push it and I'll see what I can do here. I mean, one of my favorite memorable events training with him and two more guys in our training crew there. I was supposed to have some sandbags over yoke for reps. So I'm throwing the sandbag. No, sorry, it was a stone. It was a stone? No, it was a sandbag. I'm throwing the sandbag over the yoke, and one of the guys is throwing it back over to me. It's a light enough weight where they can still do it, but it's at the limit. So I throw it back, and we keep on going. And about 15, 20 reps in, he's burning out. So Clint jumps in. He's like, keep going. He throws the bag over back to me. I'm like, all right, okay, who's next? Like, we'll keep throwing that. Clint's like, all right. He tells my brother to come in, and then my brother does it for another 10, 20 reps. And then the first guy's recovered enough where he comes in. I think we did it for a total of 20, 30 minutes, roughly, where I would keep throwing the bag over in between every rep. While they're trying to pick it back up and throw it over to me, I'm standing there heaving, trying to like not throw up in the bushes. They would throw it over, and Clint's like, "God, is that it? Is that all you got?" I'm like, "No, all right, hold on. I'll come out, I'll throw it back over," and then I'm standing and choking, trying not to throw up again. So like they kept on going and going until like I was at the absolute limit. I'm pretty sure I won that day against the three of them. Yeah. But that intensity that he has taught me, that you're not gonna quit now. Like how you mentioned, like with Clint, it's always when you do this sort of event and you're passing out on the ground and whatnot, he'll come to you and he's like, "Well, did you die though?" Like,
yeah.
No,
well, many. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people out there will say, that for effective training, that's unnecessary. It's overreaching and all the other stuff. Where on the other end of that, there's that mental aspect that's being developed to not quit, if it's an event, so there's a balance between those two. How do you play with that balance now? Because at a certain point, do you really need it? You know what I'm...
Yeah. So to some degree, yeah, there should be a limit, but the same mentality and approach to it has let me win certain events. At the last competition in Pfeffer, I pushed, it was like a Conan's wheel that you had to push around, and the rope kept getting tighter and tighter around the column, so it was getting significantly harder. I thought I was one whole revolution less than I actually was, and I was like, all right, I need to keep pushing it until I can't anymore. And I think I was pushing it to the point where my last few steps, as they blew the whistle for the 60 seconds, I think that it was, I took my last step and I just blacked out. I fell on the floor. I was out. I did not know what was going on. I go here is like Lily running up and saying that they need to pick me up. And I was like, okay, pick me up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part of the training, the intensity of it really helps build that necessity, that fortitude to not give up when it gets really difficult. And I mean, having the background in sports that I did before, and all the training, it does help. It does carry over into
there's a strategy there too as well, because there on certain events you just need to win.
Yeah.
So and in some ways you have to hold back, and if you hit that mental chasm, kind of like with the jump rope and what you're talking about there, where you just don't know, then you could screw up your next event.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is definitely a consideration.
So how do you work the strategy there?
So it will depend on the events. Unfortunately,
Well, the events and the people who are there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to like even the day before. Like I said, in some competitions, you only find out the exact event that you're doing the day before or on the day of. We had it where they told us, for example, deadlift suits are not allowed, and then they changed the weight and the actual implement, and they said, all right, well, deadlift suits are allowed now, but like no straps up. And then as we're all about to go out and do the event, they're like, all right, you can wear your straps on like everything. So like that changes it entirely from like being able to do maybe 2-3 reps to where I did 10 reps all of a sudden, you know? But for me, it's important, for me personally, I'm not saying this is a tactic that everyone has to develop or needs to use. For me, having the injuries that I had, specifically like the hand injury that I had, I have a strong grip for a person, for an average person. It's not good enough for most strongmen. I will often lose out to some... I will come last on grip events sometimes, or near last, just because even all the work that I put in is just barely enough to be in the professional level of grip, but it's not good enough to actually place anywhere near first on grip. So knowing that I will lose all the points that I will on the grip events, I have to make up for it in all the others. So yes, I will push myself as much as I need to, or as much as I can sometimes, just to make sure that I place within the top 3 on every single other event. Because I know at the end of the day, if I place top 3 on every other event, I'll come anywhere between 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, 5th, 6th, just because of the grip events.
What's one of the most memorable events that you've had, that you've done?
I mean, the one in Pfeffer was great because I placed pretty well. I did really well on the stones. Stones always work very well for me. And the closest next to it would probably be the SEL in Finland. SEL Netherlands. Mostly because, again, it had stones that I'm really good at. I enjoy doing stones. I always make a good show of it. I'm usually one of the few guys that actually gets to load the heaviest stone. And I tend to do very well on events that require like that athleticism involved in it. So I'll place really well, then get last points on the grip event. And
is there any event that you've seen that you would like to do? Because if you've watched all the old ones, I mean, there's been numerous events, and there's events that probably will never come back again.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy ones. Like one of the WSM events in the 90s, I think it was, involved loading baskets full of gravel with a shovel. You would load the basket up full and then carry the basket over to a rail cart, and you had to load 2 or 3 baskets like that. So that was an actual event. I don't think they've ever repeated it anywhere else, but yeah, it was work. Like it was just cardio, like shoveling the gravel in. There's a lot of events that they no longer do for safety reasons, such as the ones where an athlete would compete directly against another, like whether it's like a sumo style or a tug of war, etc. Those are always interesting. I wonder how I would have done at them, because there's not just a strength aspect to it. There's a lot of athleticism and instinct to it. You know, you can be stronger than the guy, but like some of the guys that won use their body weight to move out of the way, shift their weight, good foot placement. A lot of it comes down to like martial arts tactics.
Using the other guy's strength against
exactly.
them.
So being able to shift that weight around. So I really would have loved to do something like that. Otherwise, events that I'm looking forward to, there is a track pole championship in South Africa, which is happening a couple weeks after the one that I'm hosting in Cyprus. That is one that I'm really looking forward to. I am good with trucks, both pulling them, pushing them, and it's a whole competition that's focused, all the events around trucks, pulling them, pushing them, arm over arm, rope. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to how I do in that one. It's good. It's a good event.
So you like to play with? Did you play with trucks as a kid or something? I mean,
no,
like way back to your childhood.
I think
or you didn't have any trucks to play with.
Maybe that. Yeah, no. I think the idea of just being able to move something that big and move it really well excites me a lot. Like I get really fired up for those events. I have a lot of techniques that I picked up from other athletes that are really good with it. Some that break the conventional norm for what everyone considers to be the best technique.
What do you mean? Like, give me an example.
Well, without giving it all away, a lot of the people will focus on trying to be as low as possible to the ground. It makes sense. You convert most force into a forward movement. But the one thing that a lot of people discount is the physics aspect of it. If you're a heavy body weight and you're completely low to the ground, you're also fighting against your own body weight, almost falling down on the ground. So staying in a 45-degree point where you're using as much as possible of your body weight, but also using it to push it forward makes a whole big difference. I have gone many seconds above the top place in a truck pull event just because of that small little change. And everyone's like yelling, get lower, get lower. And I know that's not what I have to do. So like, especially when everyone's yelling at you while you're doing it, you have to focus on the technique that you do know works for you. And that's something I picked up from a legendary truck puller that has been doing it for a very long time, and he is a truck driver, so that
kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, is getting around people that have been doing it longer, because those nuances can only be learned by doing it.
Exactly.
And something like that's hard to like share on an internet forum or on Instagram to make any sense, because if you're not heavy, then it's not going to play well.
Exactly.
So there's that importance of that group aspect keeps coming back, into play with all that.
So like that helped a lot. Some tricks that I picked up on by myself or watching other sports has helped a lot. So for example, with the same truck pull, I'll wear my rock climbing shoes for it barefoot, but I'll use spray tacky on my feet before putting the shoes on. So that means my feet are both, they stay dry, they won't get as sweaty inside, there's not a lot of free movement inside the shoe, but making sure that there's no movement, it makes a whole big difference when you're pulling 20, 30 tons behind you for speed. So just the tiniest change can make a dramatic effect sometimes. Like being able to train with other people that are professionals in this and picking up on these small tricks, or sometimes I'm getting to the point where I'm sharing these tricks now, which is a great feeling to me, because I don't want to coach people, but I will happily give out the help if anyone ever asks for it. Being able to teach those small little tricks to people that might already know something really well, and then I'll have that little thing. They're like, "Oh, I never thought about this." It's a great feeling.
Well, there's two sides of that too, because some may be afraid, to give out all the tricks. You shouldn't give out all the tricks anyhow, but to give out all the tricks. But they also forget that you can give somebody that trick. It doesn't necessarily, or skill. Trick's probably a bad word. Skill. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it.
No.
Right? Because
you still need to implement it.
We see that a lot, with any lift or training advice. You can give that advice, and it's the advice that person should probably be doing. But they don't.
Exactly.
And so there's a big gap there with that as well. What about events that you've done that were just miserable outside of tearing your bicep?
Just miserable.
Because misery can be a good thing. So that's not like the good miserable. There's, how do I explain this? Because some people may not know what we're talking about. Sometimes falling to the ground, feeling like you are about ready to die is a good thing.
That can be a great feeling. I've had that feeling many times. I felt great.
But there's other ones where you're like, man, I hope I never have to do this again.
Just like yesterday, I picked up an almost 1,000-pound yoke, held it for 10 seconds, and at the end of it, I let go and I started blacking out, and a few seconds later, I'm laughing my ass off because like, that's great. It feels amazing. It feels fun. Yeah. Absolutely miserable events. I remember when I was doing an OSG Europe in Ireland. It was I think a 10 or 12 hour day, where we started from about 10 in the morning and our last event was around 6, 7 in the evening. Just because of the amount of people that are involved. And I was not prepared for that. There was a lot of pause in between the events. You cool down a lot, then you had to warm up and amp up a lot. You got to eat, drink and all that. Towards the last event, it was a sandbag castle event. So you had to carry 2 sandbags over a yoke, and then you had to pick them up and load them up onto a platform. Both were like about 20, 30 feet in between. And all the open guys, all the heavyweights, we all look at each other and we're like, are you going to run? No. Are you going to run? No. Like, we had nothing in us left. Like, we're picking up the sandbag and we're looking at each other and we're just walking with it, like throwing it over, walking around it, picking it up. And like, all right, is he going to run? Because if he runs, this is horrible, but I'll run. But okay, he's not running. Okay, I'll keep walking with it. So yeah, that's how the event ended for us. It was like everyone felt miserable at it. It was great, but it was absolutely miserable to do. The whole body was aching. We almost did not want to do it at that point. So yeah, I would say that point is a miserable that you don't want to do, but you have to do. Yeah.
What are you training for now?
Now I've got a competition coming up June 22nd in Netherlands. Then I have another 4 or 5 SEL competitions over this whole summer. So I have a full circuit planned. And then, as I said, the track championship in October, and hopefully the finals after that. And then if the goal is to place really well across all of them, and if I place really well next year, the plan is to do WSM or one of the other big ones like it. So,
were there any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
No. I don't know if you have any questions about nutrition or anything like that. I don't know.
Let's get into that, because we didn't touch into that too much, because there's going to be a big demographic of people that want to know how to gain weight, right? And my J.M. Blakely story always resurfaces, and it's taken out of context, that eating Chinese food and McDonald's and pizza with olive oil on it was not an all the time thing, and it's not a sustainable thing either. It's just getting over a hump, right? Where you have to go about doing this, and I hesitate with the word healthy, right? Because even saying healthiest isn't really
it's a stretch to say it healthy,
But I think people get what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for people that are trying to put on weight?
So there's definitely a healthy and unhealthy way to go about it. When I first started, I knew I needed to gain weight. As I mentioned, I had the burgers with pizzas, burger pizzas, or pizza burgers.
Pizza burgers, fine.
Yeah, pizza burger. That was amazing for gaining weight and maintaining weight, but it's not something I could sustain. Like, after 6 months, I could not look at the thought of having another monster mash style beef and rice or pizza burger or something like that. Sometimes after 2-3 months of competing and maintaining an 8,000 to 10,000 calorie diet, like for the 1 or 2 weeks before a competition, the food disgusts me. So,
but you still eat it.
You have to for the performance. Yeah. So finding a way around that, I found that eating healthy gives me a lot more freedom. By healthy, I mean I will pick healthier cuts of meats. It won't be fast food. I will pre-cook a lot of my food. That will it'll be either a slow cooker or a sous vide that I can then just throw. I'll cook up some of it and throw it in the freezer, or vice versa. I'll marinate a lot of food, like the whole week worth of Costco shopping. I'll marinate it all one night and throw it into the freezer, and then every day I'll pull it out and cook whatever I need to cook. A lot of it will be lean meat with a lot of vegetables. There'll be rice, beans. It's food that's difficult to eat massive amounts of, but being able to eat healthy most of the time gives me a lot of freedom to eat not healthy when I need to. So if I had an absolutely brutal training session, I know that if I go out and grab a burger from a fast food place now, it's not going to really harm me because I do need the calories, and there's nothing bad about that because most of my food is actually really clean food. And I have this freedom to do that. It's not going to impact my health. I'm still maintaining, I'm doing all my blood work. I'm visiting all my doctors. Like I'm looking impeccably healthy.
So how did you find the doctors that were willing to understand what you do?
That was a hard one. There's a lot of doctors that give me a lot of resistance and right away say, no, you can't do this. I've had doctors tell me, you have to lose 200 pounds. I'm like, even at my lightest, most athletic, I was not 200 pounds less than I am now. That's physically impossible for me. So being able to explain to them, it helps when they're sports doctors or doctors that work with a lot of other athletes. They might not work with a 400-pound athlete, but they'll understand that whether or not they tell you to stop, you're not going to stop. So what's the next best logical thing to do is to make sure that you're doing whatever you're doing the healthiest way you can do it. So being able to find a doctor that is willing to understand that you're willing to put things on the line here, and he's going to help you achieve that is very important. So I have my own cardiologist that I check out with once every few months. I have a nutritionist, endocrinologist, a general doctor. I do my blood work every 2 to 3 months. I look through it. I've learned to read it myself just so I can look for signs myself and correlate with what the doctors say. Sometimes they might just
allow you to also have better questions.
Exactly. Like being able to ask the doctors the right questions or point them towards things that you might consider not even a red flag, but something that, okay, this is looking a little bit different from what I'm usually expecting, and this is feeling off. Can I explain it well enough for the doctor to give me a good suggestion, or for any kind of expert to give me a good suggestion back? So it's important, if you're being serious about it, to take all aspects of it seriously, not just your training, because the training is just one of the main things, but it's by far not the only thing that's important if you want to be a successful athlete.
Right. So it's interesting how that pendulum swings, right? Because for a year or two, it will be all recovery. Like, it doesn't matter what you do in the gym if you can't recover from it, right? But then what gets lost is you still have to train hard enough to actually have something to recover from. Yeah. So then that pendulum will switch back to train harder, and then the recovery aspect kind of gets lost in that whole equation. So it's when you're around long enough, you can see where this is at. Right now it's kind of right in the middle, and where a couple of years ago it was like the recovery. With your own recovery, the conversation with the recovery starts with how you set up the training, right? So with that being set up, how do you approach your recovery? Because there's times where you'll overreach. I don't want to say overtrain, but you overreach. It's too much. Yes. Then maybe you have to stick in certain recovery modalities. I don't believe you want the recovery modalities all the time because then you'll get used to those the same way you would a train stimulus. So how do you coordinate all that?
So coordinating all that, as you mentioned, like with the pendulum, being able to be long enough in the sport that you see the peaks of every pendulum. There's always something to learn when everyone's focusing on that one thing. You'll pick up some of the best elements from each one, and being long enough in the sport and talking to enough people, you can put it all together. Once you said doing all the recovery things all the time is not only not feasible from the point of recovering. It's not feasible from the point of the mental training, as you said, like how do you keep it fun and whatnot. If I have to spend 3 hours of my day doing recovery stuff alone, that is the same thing every single time, then I'm just not going to mentally recover from it. It's important, like something that I wanted to mention is having hobbies outside of the sport, because the sport is no longer a hobby. You're not doing it as a hobby if you're doing it seriously and professionally. You can have fun with it as you're supposed to, but that's not necessary. So doing things that are other fun things that can help recover is great. So, I mean, I will enjoy going out for hikes and walks other than my usual rucking, but I will also enjoy sitting home playing games or watching TV,
finding really stupid sports to show me on
Exactly. Yeah. Like every weird version of a fighting sport that I can find. It's just
you have a knack for that. I have seen fighting in telephone booths and in a tire. That was an interesting one.
In a car.
In a car. Yeah. And then there was whatever
ice hockey.
There was whatever that massive game of just beating everybody up.
Yeah, that's always fun.
What's that called again? I can't remember what that was, but there's like 100 people in an arena just beating the shit out of each other, trying to get a ball over a fence.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. It's a calcico. Yeah, the Italian sport.
Yeah. Yep. No. So I see where that comes from now. So that's the hobby of finding what.
Yeah, and sometimes even participating in them. It's difficult. It's difficult doing that now. Like I am like part of the recovery aspect. I really want to do some martial arts now. Or like, for example, the Bahart, the armored combat, let's say. So where they dress up in full night gear.
Yeah.
And they go with axes and swords. I'm dying to try that. I really want to. I've been invited to a few clubs to participate. It's a dream for me to, like, it seems cool, every kid's dream, dressing up in full knight armor and then whacking another guy with an axe.
Yeah.
Or at least most kids' dream, I guess. I know that if I try to do that on my off days, it will be really difficult for me to recover from that and still compete in strongman. So as long as I'm taking strongman seriously, I cannot honestly enjoy that as much as I could. Like, yeah, I could spend 1 or 2 training sessions, but I could not pick it up as a weekly thing because any minor injuries from that I cannot account for, since I'm going to be new to that sport.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be able to recover from them in my main sport. So yeah, being able to find correct hobbies that you'll enjoy is important. I will enjoy watching those sports and learning everything I can about them and coming up with theories for how I would train for them, what I would do in them, how I could do any of those sports better, how, like, a lot of those sports, especially if they're newer sports, they don't seriously consider yet a lot of the aspects that we have started to consider for a while now in both powerlifting or Olympic sports or even strongman, sports that have been around for long enough, such as nutrition and recovery. Like, a lot of those guys will not consider those aspects seriously enough in their sport that I know that they could benefit so much from it if they actually took something out of that. So like when you said training around other professional athletes, even training around other sport athletes, you could learn something new from them, from a different discipline of sport.
Oh, of course.
Just because everyone has something to teach, something that's entirely different that you've never even had access to, because those people don't usually train together.
Yes. And at the higher levels, there still is that daily grind, repetition over and over and over and over. And there's strategies. Everybody has a different strategy. So maybe you pick up a strategy from one of those guys of how to deal with that, or how to deal with criticism, or how to deal with popularity, or how to gain popularity. All the, like, the night thing would definitely gain you popularity. But
I think so. Yeah, that would definitely be a fun thing. I'm sure it's probably more fun to watch than a regular training session. Yeah, at least to me, like, I would enjoy watching that a lot more than watching just another lift at the gym.
If you're doing it, it would, that would be I'd love to see you whack somebody with a friggin' hammer.
Yeah, like I think I have a lot of potential to whack someone hard with an axe, or like just buddy them. Like it's another. Like I think doing the rucking has probably brought me even closer to that goal, because if I can walk around with 90 pounds in my backpack, what's 90 pounds of armor on top of me?
Well, you make a real interesting point with that, because what stemmed out of you doing something just kind of as a joke and then for fun ended up providing something that's benefited you greatly with your own recovery with Strongman, which was the rucking from that. So by having hobbies or making it fun, long term can provide insight that you otherwise wouldn't see if all you did was live in that one bubble.
No, absolutely agree. That is a very valid point from it, that there is something to learn from everything, just as long as you can find some way to gain benefit out of it.
Yeah,
so
and keeping somewhat of an open mind.
Yeah, having an open mind. There is no one way to do
There's a lot of people that would disagree.
Yeah, well, it's their loss, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I try to put out through the podcast is you look at everybody in every sport, every endeavor, they all do things differently.
Yep.
So if there was just one way,
then everyone else would be doing it wrong.
Exactly. If there was one way to be the best strongman, you don't think they would all be doing it?
Yep.
You know, it doesn't work that way.
Just a great example of that. When I brought up the sandbag throwing, I was watching the three guys this year. They all set a record on the keg weight over bar. All three of them that broke the world record did it in an entirely different technique to each other. There were some similarities, but all three techniques were entirely different from each other, like distinctly different patterns. So which one is the best one? Well, I don't think there is a best one, because they all broke it. Yeah. So which one is the best one for you then? Or which one can you make work for you based on your size, your weight, your athleticism, how you're feeling on the day. So
or what commonalities existed amongst those three that weren't the differences.
Exactly. And they're all big guys. So until you really start looking into the details of why they were different, there's no other way. And like perhaps maybe even just talking to them is the only way to find out why it actually worked for him. Yeah. You might have a good explanation.
Well, sometimes it could be something just as strange as I can't do it that other way because
like my elbow hurts.
So I screwed something up. That happens a lot. Yeah. Any final thoughts that you have?
Any final thoughts?
I always get everybody on that one because I don't know what to say.
Final thoughts. Just reiterating on what I said. It is important to find a hobby. Like it's one thing if you're doing the sport as a hobby, there's nothing wrong with it. Any sport is great to enjoy, highly encouraged. But if you want to take it seriously, don't make your whole persona and lifestyle around it, unless you have something to gain out of it. The money or whatever your goal is to gain out of it. Be more open-minded to trying out new things, learning from other people. There is no one right way, as we mentioned. So trying out different hobbies, trying out different methods, listening to other people, how they're doing it, talking to them and sharing even your experiences and thoughts of it can always be beneficial. Someone like, if you tell me that you're doing something this way, I might say, well, have you tried this? That's always, one way to go about it. So that would be it, I guess, my final.
How would people find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Ilya Khazov.strongman.
We'll put the link in the description.
And otherwise, at any other competitions that I compete on, I am on TV nowadays. So it feels pretty good about that. It was very surreal seeing myself on TV. So that's a great experience.
Did you look better or worse than you thought?
I am not going to answer that
one. Well, did you ask, man, I need to get bigger or I should lose weight or my face is too big?
My face is too big. I always think I should be much bigger.
Yeah.
Like I'm never big enough.
So
Yeah.
so as long as your face doesn't get bigger,
Yeah.
everything else
needs to get bigger.
So
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah,
final
yeah.
thoughts.
I
right?
guess
Get
that would be
big,
it,
but
yeah.
keep your face,
Yeah.
you know,
In line.
in
Yeah.
line, within control. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming out.
Yeah,
This
thank
has been
you.
great. And guys, we're done.
Yep.
Oh, I want to take my headphones off. They're already off.
Yep.
America Health is a premium telehealth platform that specializes in hormone optimization and preventative medicine, ensuring a better quality of life. America Health offers a table talk panel tailored for our listeners, featuring comprehensive tests like total and free testosterone, sensitive estradiol, and advanced markers like lipoprotein A and IGF-1. Choose between self-service options where you can select lab panels based upon decades of experience, or opt for guided optimization with your own health coach. Visit merrickhealth.com/tabletalk and use the code tabletalk to get 10% off your first order. This is kind of like an unboxing. I just got the Element sparkling water. Haven't tried it, haven't opened it. So let's check it out. All the different flavors here. And I will go with the grapefruit, which is my favorite flavor of the pack. Here's the test. It's good. I like it. It's like sparkling water with Element. So it's good. The Sleep Me Chili Bed cooling system lets you customize your sleeping environment to your own optimal temperature, ensuring you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Visit www.sleep.me/tabletalk to get your chili pad and save up to $315 with the code tabletalk. Hey guys, real quick, we realized that something ridiculous, like 80% of the people that watch the podcast don't subscribe. So subscribe to the channel and make sure to check out the description for more details on the guest, links to their pages, and give us a few days, but the show notes will be there. Or not the show notes, the timestamps. Hey, we're just rolling with this thing right now.
Why should anyone join this Discord? Why wouldn't you want to? It's not fake, it's genuine, it's authentic, it's well worth it. The Discord has been nothing short of meeting new people who are incredibly like-minded, giving each other a bunch of ball busting, but also being there to support each other in whatever life throws their way. The best part of it for me has also been able to connect with lifters of all levels, help coach, get coached, and also connect with other new fathers who are enjoying the journey of lifting and trying to balance that out. It's the glue that holds all of us together. A common interest will bring people from different walks of life, people who are multimillionaires, these characters and everything else in between, united under one thing, the pursuit of strength.
I think most of us would agree that getting a coach is a great step forward that an athlete can make to make greater progress. But what if you had two coaches? What if you had a whole bunch of coaches and a whole bunch of driven elite level athletes and like-minded people all in your corner trying to make you better? That's exactly what you're going to get with the Table Talk Discord crew.
All right, guys, thanks for watching the video to the end. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and click here, 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 or here for more videos.